Good evening. Welcome to Newsmaker Live. Special good evening to you watching the broadcast on Facebook and also on your television sets. My name is Timothy Polion. We'll be together until 10 o'clock this evening. I'd like to apologize for the late start of the broadcast. During the course of this evening, we'll be focusing on two topics. By the way, I do not have a guest, so I'll be interacting with you, and you'll be getting an opportunity to focus on two issues. The first one, this incident at the Bordelais Correctional Facility, which certainly is deserving of an entire probe, not a talk show, but some form of major investigation. Yesterday, you would have heard from the authorities that a 16-year-old female inmate on remand at the BCF was attacked just after noon, about 10 minutes after noon. And since then, we've been hearing a lot of conflicting stories and varying details being provided to us. Earlier on, I spoke with the mother of that 16-year-old inmate, and you'll be hearing from her in just a moment. But let's try to put this into context before you hear from the mother of that alleged rape victim who is at the Bordelais Correctional Facility on a murder charge. And let me just let you hear a little bit of what the mother said to me earlier on, just a little bit before we get to hear from the Director of Corrections, Mr. Hilary Herman, and then we'll be hearing from human rights activist and the coordinator of the Center for Legal Rights and Human Aid. You'll be hearing from Miss Mary Francis. But first, let us hear from the mother of that alleged sexual assault victim. Her name is Nadia Jermaine. Just a little bit of what she had to say to me early on.
She just hold me and fell on me and said, "Mommy, they raped me. They make me feel like a dog."
And as the mother of this alleged rape victim who is at the Bordelais Correctional Facility as we speak, let's backtrack a bit. Yesterday we heard from the Director of Corrections, Mr. Hilary Herman, and by the way, today marks just his 6th day on the job and his 3rd stint as the Director of Corrections at the BCF. And he disclosed to the media that just after noon yesterday, 10 minutes after noon yesterday, there was apparently a skirmish. And that's the impression that most of us got. And in the fracas, a 16-year-old female, she was physically assaulted. And again, the director went on to say that there'll be a further investigation to determine whether she would have been impacted otherwise. We have that report right now, and it is by Don Nicholas, who attended a press conference which was hosted by or held by Mr. Hilary Herman.
According to Director of the Bordelais Correctional Facility, Hilary Herman, at approximately 12 p.m. Monday, the facility's administration received reports that 3 male inmates physically assaulted a female inmate. The incident occurred at the medical unit of the facility. He says an investigation is being conducted to get to the bottom of the incident.
Yesterday afternoon, sometime around 12:10 p.m., 3 male inmates assaulted a female inmate at the Bordelais Correctional Facility. It is currently under investigation. We have no further details, but it's important that we allow the public to know that this incident did take place.
Male and female inmates are generally separated at the facility, except for religious classes and sometimes at the medical unit where the incident occurred. But Mr. Herman, who has just days on the job, says proper procedures were not followed.
We're now reviewing policies and procedures and looking to see how we strengthen those procedures.
Investigations into the matter continue. For the DBS News World, I am Don Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Don, for this report. Once again, this alleged attack occurring, according to Mr. Hilary Herman, on Monday afternoon, just afternoon. Now, we heard that an investigation is underway. Who should be conducting that investigation? Should it be an investigation conducted by the prison authorities or officials, or should it be conducted by officials from the Ministry of National Security and Home Affairs? Or should this be a matter for the police? I think it should be a matter for the police. We are hearing that 3 male inmates broke into the area or the cell where the 16-year-old was being held, and she was raped. We are yet to hear this from the authorities. We are yet to hear this from the Director of Corrections or the National Security Minister, because according to them, the investigation is still ongoing. Earlier on today, during my Newspin program on Real FM, I got a reaction from Miss Mary Francis, human rights attorney, and this is what she had to say.
I heard it on the news last night, and I was a little bit surprised, yet not too surprised that something like that would have happened at Bodily. And I intend to make some contact down there to see whether, to get the facts and to know exactly what occurred. Because if it's an assault, whether it's a sexual assault, I would like to know exactly how such a thing could have taken place. Because I mean to see the female inmate is in the custody of the state, and the state has a duty to ensure that her human rights are protected whilst within the custody at Bodily. And I don't understand how she could have been assaulted by 3 male inmates. It brings to mind the question as to the environment down there, whether the place in which they are kept, whether the cells are in close proximity to the male cells. I don't know. I haven't been there. I don't know exactly, but that must have something happened which would have contributed to this assault taking place there. I heard the director, Mr. Herman, say the issue of segregation is a tough one for them because they have had to use the segregated units for juvenile as a juvenile detention. So again, these are areas that we have to pay attention to. The state has to pay attention because talking about prohibiting violence against women, that is an issue which is, at the forefront in St. Lucia, sexual violence against women and assault.
Coordinator of the Center for Legal Aid and Human Rights, Miss Mary Francis. I spoke to her earlier on during my radio program on Real FM Newspin. The fact is, this young lady should have been safe. The fact is, this young lady was taken into custody by the state. She gave herself up to the state. She was charged with murder, and she was willing to face the full force of the law. She was willing to go through the process. She did not try to escape the long arm of the law. She wanted to face the state and for the judiciary to make a determination on the basis of the evidence before it of her whether she was guilty or not guilty. The state has to answer for this alleged incident, which is currently under investigation. Early on, I spoke with her mother, Nadia Jermaine. This is what she had to say.
Well, the dad called, and the dad said to me, Nadia, something is wrong with your child. I don't want to mention her name. So I'm like,
you received that call at about what time? The same Sunday evening?
No, I received that call on Monday night, about minutes to 8.
And her father told you what?
Something is wrong with her, so I asked him what, because, like, the way he's speaking, boy, don't tell me my child did. So I'm like, tell me what happened to her. So he's telling me Nadia was raped by 3 individuals in her cell. So I'm like, you serious? When you get that kind of information from? He said the probation officer called him and told him that. So I said, okay, I'm going to call the probation officer right now because I need to speak to her to really know what's going on. So I called her. I didn't get her the first time. Then she called me back, and I'm asking her like, Miss, what's going on with Nadej? She said, well, sorry to tell you that 3 inmates broke into Nadej's cell. So I'm asking her, was Nadej raped? She said to me, no, she didn't say she was. So I'm wondering, but how the father can say Nadej was raped and now you telling me no, Nadej wasn't raped? Well, but Nadej is what she's like, Nadej is a. So I'm like, well, in the first place, how did 3 inmates happen to get into Nadej's cell when Nadej is supposed to be under maximum security? Right?
And what was her response?
She don't know. She herself, she finding it strange too. So I asked her if the inmates had a wrecking ball to break through the walls. Because isn't the facility built in walls? Is it built in plywood? She know it had concrete bricks. So I'm like, but how did prisoners get into a female inmate cell by breaking a wall? That's impossible. That makes no sense. That's all not making no sense at all. Well, I really don't know what to say, but you should go down to Borderley tomorrow at 9 o'clock. The investigating officers are there. They will be having an interview with Nadej. You should sit in. I went to Borderley at 8:30 in the morning. I arrived there at 8:30 in the morning.
That's on Monday morning.
That's a Tuesday morning because she called me Monday night. So that's Tuesday morning. When I arrived there, reception, I'm here to see Nadej. So they're telling me, well, I'm not on the visiting list. So I tell them, well, today I can't be on the visiting list because something terrible happened to Nadej. Why should I be on the visiting list? I'm her mother. What happened in Borderley? I tell them, but you all know what happened in Borderley. Nadej was assaulted on Sunday night by 3 inmates. They're like, oh, that did not happen. We don't know nothing about that. I tell her, well, anyway, you don't know nothing about that. Let me speak to someone in charge because I was supposed to come in for 9 o'clock to speak to the investigating officers. Okay, they have me wait for you. I waited and I got a little frustrated waiting because I am eager. I want to know what's going on because somebody called me and said my child has been raped and I want to know what's going on. So a little after, he said, oh, Mr. Felix will see you right now. I go to Mr. Felix. I'm speaking to Mr. Felix. Mr. Felix, you have no answer. Oh, Mr. What's that?
What was your response?
My response?
Because you're saying that the officials there on duty could not respond to you.
They could not respond. They, like, everybody's just smiling, like, we don't know what to say. We cannot tell you about the situation right about now. There are investigating officers down there investigating and this and that, and everybody's giving the run around. The head of the facility will be in half an hour, and this and blah, blah, blah. Some lady called Miss Bella approached me. She said she wants to speak to me, so I'm telling her to speak to me now. She cannot speak to me right here. We have to go in private. Hours and hours and hours passed, and up to now I cannot see Miss Bella. I cannot see the head of Borderley facility. I was there, and I supposed to meet with these people because these people are supposed to tell me what's going on with my child. Up to now.
Who have you been able to speak with on this issue?
No one.
And you're saying that no one has also contacted you?
No one. The only people I'm speaking to is the people from probation. And the people from probation is saying that themselves do not have too much information because when they went there, Borderley did not allow them to go in to see the crime scene.
Can you describe the area where your daughter was housed?
I have no idea. I am begging to see that place. Up to now, I cannot see that place.
But she has been on remand from July of this year.
Yeah.
Have you been
I am begging to see that place. I cannot see that place.
So you have never seen your daughter since she has been incarcerated on remand?
Never. Well, according to them, she's not even on remand. She's been detained.
So what was was the reason given for you not being able to see her?
I guess it's all bound to the public.
So you don't know where at the Bordelais facility she was?
No, I don't know. The only people that know that has seen that facility is the probation officer.
So between this incident which occurred on a Sunday evening and now, you see, you've not been able to speak with any of the officials, particularly those at the BCF. What have you been able to do? Because obviously this must have caused you a lot of pain, a lot of anguish. What have you been doing?
I called different people. I spoke to different people on what should I do. I'm speaking to her lawyer because I don't know what to do.
Because initially the director of corrections said that your daughter was physically attacked and she was being examined to determine the level of the attack on her, the extent.
She was examined on Monday because she made the report at 7 o'clock in the morning. Because according to her, when the incident occurred, there was no security around, nobody at all. Not one person inside. Not one security guard, not one warden, nobody inside. When she made the report Monday morning, they probably brought her to St. Jude at whatever time. They did not bring her right away.
And you've not been able to speak with her on the phone?
I spoke to my daughter. The day I went there because I demanded to speak to my daughter. Because one officer told me that there's three sides to a story. There's Bordelais side, there's her side, and there's the truth. So I wanted to know the truth.
So you spoke to her on Tuesday?
So I spoke to her on Tuesday because I really want to know the truth. And the only truth I want to know right now is my daughter's truth. Because everybody's playing cat and mouse game. Everybody wants to bury. Imagine if somebody did not call a probation officer from the cell, nobody would not even know about that. This man would have never even come on television and say that the country has to know, because they would have just tried to sweep it under the rug. Because they're still trying to sweep it, people are still trying to hide. Look now, the child is being kept in the same cell where the fellas attacked her, and it is supposed to be a crime scene. What is she doing sleeping in a crime scene? Now, if somebody from inside did not call probation, trust me, nobody would know about that. That would have been a secret. And then probably when they try to tell me now, they would have said she's lying.
What was the nature of the conversation with your daughter on Tuesday?
The rape. I would have told, as soon as I entered, she just hold me and fell on me and said, "Mommy, they raped me. They make me feel like a dog. They raped me. Two of them raped me. They made me feel like a dog. I'm feeling so dirty. I'm feeling like a dog." That's what she said to me when I entered, and she started crying.
Before that incident, how was she doing?
She was holding on. She was trying. She was holding on. Because I go to see her every week or twice for a week. So she was coping.
As far as you know, has she been given any kind of counseling?
Oh, they said she's been given counseling, but when I went to probation, today probation said that's not true. They only called the counselor in today. The child was supposed to have counseling from the day she entered Bordelais Correctional Facility.
What do you have to say to the authorities who are listening to you right now?
The authorities of St. Lucia? Sorry. I'm so ashamed. I am so ashamed of the authorities of St. Lucia. They don't care. They don't care about anybody. It's not their child, so they don't care.
Why do you believe they do not?
From the day the incident happened until today, the places I've been, the questions I've been asking, nobody cares. And even the child said it, nobody cares. Nobody cares about me, mommy. Nobody cares.
How do you plan to fight this?
That information, I'll keep that to myself for a while.
But before this incident, were there any warning signs? Did you ever expect that your daughter would suffer such a fate?
No. She's supposed to be in a safe place. You all put her there because you're saying you're protecting her. You all didn't even put her in the females. They didn't even put her with the females, because they say they don't want her with the females because it's dangerous for her to be with the females. They will put her they will detain her in a place by herself. Just to keep her away from the danger of the other prisoners. So probably they should have just left her the other girls and the other girls go to her backside, and then probably could have been better for her. Instead of having 3 men come and violate your whole space, violate your body and everything. That is so disgusting.
What do you want to happen next?
What I want to happen next? I want justice for my child. I need justice for her. And not only for her, for a lot of young girls in St. Lucia, because who knows? Probably that's been happening at Borderley for so long and nobody's speaking out. It just happened that probably it happened to her and it ended up coming out, but probably it was happening at Borderley, not now. And people hiding it. Nobody knows. I want justice for her and for whoever it happened before her. A lot of nonsense is to stop in St. Lucia. We need to stop hiding things. We need to stop hiding things in St. Lucia. We need to speak up in St. Lucia. Don't wait for when things happen to us. Because not now. So much crime going on in St. Lucia, not now. You don't have a proper facility to facilitate young children. Not now. She's not the first and she will not be the last. They have other girls at the facility who's been there from 16 the same way. God knows what they went through.
How has this impacted you?
Right now I'm just sad. Emotionally distressed.
Do you have any other children?
Yes, I have. I have an older daughter. She's 19 and 3 sons.
So how are they reacting to this? Because I'm sure they would have been privy to the attack.
Everybody's sad. Everyone is sad. Nobody cannot believe how that happened. And she still has to be in there sleeping in that same cell. That's if she's even sleeping. She's probably wondering where they might come again. I cannot get no information on they're holding information on the investigating officers from me. I cannot get to know who's the investigating officers. I just pray to God help her, guide her, give her the strength to go through because I know she's taking it rough inside of there. I just pray to God that He gives her the strength and I can give her the help that she needs.
My interview with Nadia Jermaine earlier on today, and she is the mother of a 16-year-old inmate, female, at the Borderley Correctional Facility. Allegedly, she was raped on Sunday evening. We'll take a break. When we come back, love to hear from you with your calls, your comments to my interview with Nadia Jermaine. You're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS Television. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You are watching Newsmaker Live on DBS Television with me, Timothy Polio. And we hope that the folks on Facebook, they are able to hear us, hear the interview, hear the interaction as we put a telephone number on the screen right now. If you care to comment, you heard from Nadia Jermaine, and she is the mother of the 16-year-old female at the Border Lake Correctional Facility. She's there on a murder charge, and she was allegedly raped on Sunday evening. The head of the Border Lake Correctional Facility said that the incident occurred Monday afternoon, but according to the mother, that's Nadia Jermaine, her daughter informed her that the incident occurred on Sunday evening. We have our first call line. Good evening to you. This is Newsmaker Live. You're on the air. Hi, good evening to you, sir. How are you? Yes, Mr. Callista Jean-Louis. How are you, sir? Everything's okay? Basically operating on a part-time basis. But let me speak to my producer. My producer, the people on Facebook, they're saying they cannot hear the caller. So please try to rectify this. Continue, sir.
Consultants, I can tell you of those consultants' reports that have indicated that the structure that they have those people, children in, those young children, it is not fit for humans to live. Yet still, we take people's children and drum them in a place where that is unsafe. Where are we going to them? Look, we hear they have changed the Children and Young Persons Act. And now the government have enacted that OECS Child Justice Bill. So right now, Tim, a child or a young person, 16, 17, 18 years, okay, a male cannot go to Borderley. You have to send them to Boys Training Center, a place that is not prepared to house those type of individuals. Because initially, Boys Training Center was designed for young boys from 15 years down. Today, we are sending 18-year-olds there. We have done nothing, absolutely nothing, to accommodate those other type of boys or young men.
And by the way, you're a former employee of the Boys Training Center. How should we deal with that particular problem? And I'm just asking a question, but I think we all know what the answer is. Tim, listen, the government could have made a decision to take the Grosley Secondary School and turn it into something they call a sport academy overnight.
okay, by a twist of a pen. We have structures there, Tim, that they could transfer those young boys and those young girls to. We have them there. We have them. But the country, Andrew, Tim, do not care. They don't care. And these are the same young boys who graduate, because the reports are there about Boys Training Center in terms of the recidivism to Borderley. It is there. This government in particular, is hardly spending any money at Boys Training Center. Okay? Capital expenditure, zero. Aftercare, because when a boy leaves Boys Training Center, Boys Training Center have at least 2 to 3 years care. Tim, that is virtually non-existent. We have social workers at Boys Training Center. They are not traveling officers. We have counselors there. They are not traveling officers. I mean, it is madness. And yet still we want a secure St. Lucia. What about our young girls who are at risk? Where do we send them? They take a transit home. You remember that the transit home, Tim?
Yeah.
The transit home was designed for adoption. That's why I call it a transit. You take children who did not have issues, you house them there, and there's a process for which they can get adoption. They have turned this place into a bacchanal now. Okay, Tim, we need to get this formula right. It is for the national security of our country. We cannot have children who need help. They are potential criminals. They have all sorts of psychological and behavioral problems, and we do not have the proper housing for them. We are not putting money. We had DSH. We have all sorts of things, millions. But our children, we put a couple $1,000s. I do not know how that could be beneficial for our country. And I can tell you, that mother ought to sue the government. Sue the government, not for 1 million, a couple millions of dollars. That's how they would learn. Because we need to house those children. Take them out from where they are. Put proper housing for those children for them to get the help. Get proper staff. How can you have staff in team that have no background in childcare, no background in psychology, no background, but they have to work with children that have emotional and behavioral problems? How in heaven's name can that work?
Okay, sir.
I am seeing a time bomb, and I'm seeing our national security is at risk. And that's one of the reasons we have all those issues, social issues, because we hear no evil, we see no evil, we do nothing to prevent it, and we expect something good to come out of it. Thank you very much, Tim, and have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you so much for calling. Just heard there from Mr. Callister Louis. He is also a former employee of the Boys Trading Center. Definitely, for too long, we have ignored the plight of our children, whether it's boys, and in this particular case, we have failed our girls as well. Good evening to you, Newsmaker Live. You're on the air.
Mr. Polion.
Good evening to you, sir.
I'm going to ask you something. First of all, should we just build institutions and expect that all children that go delinquent will be housed there, or should we start from primary or infancy where parents take care of their children and ensure that the children are schooled properly? You talk to your children and you try your best to you could build 1,000.
Irrespective of how you do it, irrespective of you have good parenting and so on, there's always need for such institutions.
I'm not saying no.
To house young people, to house troubled individuals, people who find themselves on the wrong side of the law, as was the case with this 16-year-old. She was charged with murder. Where do you place her? Do you place her at the Bordelais Correctional Facility, or do you have a special facility for people of her age? That is the issue. That is the issue we need to discuss.
Okay. When the incident happened, did we know that a 16-year-old would have stabbed a gentleman that should have been...
Caller, we don't know the circumstances under which this incident occurred. I don't even think that we should continue along those lines. Because in St. Lucia, in Jamaica, in the United States, many parts of the world, you have 16-year-old children, whether it's boys or girls, who find themselves in trouble with the law. And they are placed in particular institutions where they'll be given the correct guidance and the correct supervision, where they'll be provided with counseling. So I don't think that should be coming into the picture, whether we want to look at it from the perspective of this young lady being charged with murder. That clearly is not the issue. Good evening to you. Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Yeah, Mr. Paul, I got cut off, but I still...
No, I didn't cut. You did not.
I just got...
No, I just wanted to terminate the conversation, sir. Okay, so there's need for me to take another call. Thank you so much for calling. Let's take another call. You are watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS television. Some people have been calling for me to play this interview again, so we'll be hearing from the mother of the 16-year-old Nadia Jermaine in just a bit. So please stand by in case you missed that interview. I spoke with her earlier on today. Let's continue to take your calls and your take on this particular incident at the Bordelais Correctional Facility, how you think that the whole matter should be investigated and the way forward. Good evening to you on the air.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, caller. Your television set is on. Turn down the volume, and then you may continue with your contribution. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
First off, let me just say it's a really sad and unfortunate situation. I don't know. We seem to be crying out every time something happens. We are very reactive. We have, I think, the caller before last, he highlighted certain things with regards to the system, etc. But what I really want to know is, what are we prepared to do about it? This is yet another incident, another situation, and we are discussing it, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the discussion, but we seem to be discussing a lot. Mm-hmm. Now, Tim, permit me to comment on the last caller. While I understand your position, that we are discussing this matter, the matter of not having a suitable place and why this thing should not have happened under no circumstances. But I think we also, it's just bordering being totally disgusted by this whole thing, because we are so reactive. Every time something happens, we come, we speak, and it seems to die a silent death, so to speak. I also want to touch, as I said, the last caller.
I mean, we had the same reaction to Valinda Joseph and other incidents.
Exactly.
Yeah. We had several years ago, I think we had a fire at the Bordelais Correctional Facility. Not Bordelais, but the Boys Training Center, which claimed the life of a young male. Yeah.
Exactly. We keep saying, and it is so ironic, we keep saying, you know, if it happens, if it reaches your doorstep, then you would understand, etc. But those of us who are saying that, what have we done during the time of the cases we've had in the past? And I don't want to sound like the last caller, but Tim, I think if we're going to deal with this thing, we have to start from the get-go, from the family structure. Because, Tim, though you were quick to cut the gentleman, I respect you, this is your show. Though you were quick to cut the gentleman, I also think he's raising a very good point. Because I think it's deeper than just, just putting plasters. Something happens, oh, we need to have this in place. Oh, we need to have that in place. But I think the focus needs to be placed. We need to be very strategic as a nation, as a government body, as a family, as parents, as guardians. We need to be very strategic and understand what it is out there, and the reality checks. Now, certainly, I don't want to sound like all the others. I would not even bother to call, to be quite honest, Tim. But I couldn't help it. Because we are a reactive people. And we simply wait for something to happen, and then we all join the bandwagon and sing Kumbaya. It doesn't work. It doesn't happen like that. We need to get, if it is, we decide this thing has been happening for God knows how long. From the very first time it happened, we should be ensuring that whether it be the previous government, whilst the previous party was in power, we should be demanding and seeing to it that things are put in place. Oh, we are too lax as a people. All we know is hospitality. We are hospitable people.
Okay, ma'am.
What's about the other thing? The other things that we need to make our business and ensure that things are put in place. And nobody is excused in this. Absolutely no one is excused. Nobody is pardoned. From family down to institution, down to government, every single person has to shoulder that blame, that what has happened right now, because we all are responsible for it.
Okay, thank you so much for calling. Let's continue to take your calls. Once again, you are watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS television. The fact remains that this lady was in the care of the state. The state has full responsibility for her protection. She was supposed to be safe so that she could face the full force of the law. There could be a determination to be made with regard to the charge that was slapped on her. That's the murder charge. Good evening, Newsmaker Live. Okay, we lost this call, but continue to call us once again on the program as we continue to discuss this incident which occurred recently at the Bordelais Correctional Facility. I'm saying recently because the Director of Correction said that the incident occurred on Monday afternoon, 10 minutes after noon, but according to the alleged rape victim, the attack occurred on her on Sunday at about 11 o'clock in the evening. And early on, I played an interview that I conducted this evening with the mother of that individual, a 16-year-old, and that is Nadia Jermaine. The state has to answer for this, and there needs to be a thorough investigation, not the kind of investigations that we've had in the past where nothing conclusive would come out of them, but definitely something of note so that going forward we can learn from incidents of that nature. But again, we should not even be describing this as an unfortunate incident. It should not have occurred in the first place. Good evening, you're on the air.
Tim, good night.
Hi, good night to you, sir. How are you?
All right. I support what he's saying. We need to hold the state responsible, Tim. But
because she was in the care of the state.
Yeah, but what boggles my mind a little is that how many hundreds of young men have been violated and nothing ever come up.
Yeah.
Eh? So
countless.
That's what I watch in there. As if it's expected that that's what happened. You know what I mean? In jail, that's what you must expect, young man, when you go to jail. But not young woman. You know what I'm saying? That's all. I just want us to be level and biased. Okay, Tim?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, because they are.
But those incidents, we do not hear about them.
Yeah, why don't we hear about them?
Well, maybe because calls.
How many young lives have been spoiled because of that kind of violence?
Maybe Suku calls are not being made to the authorities, the probation department and other government departments.
And then we sit our saying, hence the insecurity of our young men too, all these sort of things. And when they behave like the way they behave, we don't pay attention to them. You know what I'm saying? We don't pay attention to our young men. Not even half as much as the women. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but let's not make this a gender issue, because it goes without saying that we should be taking note of all the social issues that are impacting the people of St. Lucia. That should not be making a gender issue, whether it's happening to male individuals or whether it's happening to females. In this particular case, again, this matter occurred at an institution where the 16-year-old should have been protected. Good evening, Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, good evening to you, Rick. Expected your call.
Why? I've listened to all the calls, and it's like there's a recording. I am amazed that you even remembered the boy who was roasted in a cell. He was taken away from his mother.
Yeah.
And the court said the mother was an unfit mother, and took him. And the story of how they took him away is pretty nauseating. And there hasn't been a public report yet.
And we heard the same thing. The matter was being investigated.
Oh, yeah, being investigated. As you mentioned, Belinda Joseph's case remains unresolved. But at the end of the day, you know, it's really sad because the Kenny Anthony administration, within its first 2 or 3 years, am I getting an echo, Tim?
It's coming from your end, I suspect. Your television set or your computer is on.
My thing is switched off.
Yeah. But anyway, continue. Try to ignore it.
All right. Yeah. It was a much needed thing at Bordelais facility.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never forget what was happening when it was going up. And ultimately, the Labour Party could not even cash in on having built that facility because most St. Lucians didn't want a facility. If you were arrested, that meant you were guilty. And they call it the 5-star hotel. On all of them. As I told you so many times on your show, the crisis is us. Everything that's malfunctioning is representative of us. I mean, of course, the state is. Who is the state? It's you and me, Tim,
mm-hmm.
with the administrators that we chose. And it's a coincidence that all the governments we've had have had that kind of stuff. You remember when people used to leave the prison and they were just shot, the legs shot off?
Yeah.
You remember the Terry James time?
Yeah.
You remember Cobo? Remember all these people? It's a constant thing. Look what's happening with the impact. We still can't get that resolved yet. But that's because we are responsible as a people. We don't care, as the lady was saying a while ago. Because if we cared, at election time, we would be, guys would be accountable for that. Guys would tell you precisely what they were going to do with regard to that and how. I mean, we even have to look at the personnel that administer governance and to see the quality of some of the people in government or in government offices or holding positions that really they should not be holding public positions.
The other unfortunate thing, Rick, is that those social issues are never discussed by the respective politicians on the platforms in the run-up to a general election. Instead, you have the, as people say, the TMAT taking place between the two political parties in St. Lucia, as opposed to dealing with the issues that are confronting the people that are plaguing us.
But Tim, it's worse than that. When somebody does, they jump on that somebody like wolves. You know, forgive. What, can't you forget about that? That kind of stuff is what we get. And the consequences we have now. Of course, the state is responsible for what happened to the young lady.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I heard somebody saying, oh, you could sing millions of dollars. Like, maybe, but it's you and me and your cousin who are going to pay it, not the ministers of government, out of their pockets. So if we refuse to fix things, what ultimately happens is it just crumbles. It's the nature of things.
And it's also very sad when you hear the victims, in this case, the mother of the victim, speaking on behalf of her daughter and sounding very helpless.
Well,
not knowing the way forward, what to do.
I was very, I was very attentive when she was talking. And of course, I've had similar people talking that way to me about their things. You know what I detected in that voice? And I don't mean in any way to be taken wrong. It's almost, despite the pain she's obviously feeling, it is almost as if that's the norm. It's the way things are. If you can get that tone, she almost feels on the back of it.
Because she's from St. Lucia.
That's right.
She is aware of what has happened in the past. She is aware that nothing has come out of those particular incidents.
And the people who count never make an issue out of it. I am very, very disappointed in how Mr. Herman has handled that deal. I'm very, very disappointed. He's a man I had a lot of time for. And so far, I'm very, very disappointed in how he has handled it. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you so much for calling. Let's take a break. We'll be back in just a moment to continue our conversation right here on Newsmaker Live. We'll play you that interview again I conducted with Miss Nadia Jermaine, who is the mother of the 16-year-old who was allegedly raped at the Bordelais Correctional Facility. My producer is saying that we have a caller line. Might as well take the call. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hi.
Good evening. Can you turn down the volume of your television set, please? Causing a terrible feedback, as you could realize.
Yeah, hang on.
So as soon as you take care of that, then you can go on to make your contribution, caller.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Where do I begin? First off, I think I need to empathize with the mother of the child. Yeah. And of course, you and the last caller were speaking rightly on it. There's helplessness in her voice, in her tone, in her manners. Because at the end of the day, like you guys are saying, you know, what exactly can, you know, a victim do? Especially if you don't have resources, you have no financing to get a lawyer or whatever, right? You don't have maybe people who know how to get around the system, and so you're left helpless, right? I mean, if I could speak on it, I look at it as there's people more or less resign when they get in situations like that because they know they're looking at a system where the enablers from the highest office, if I could say, you know. Okay, if I could speak on that, it's only my opinion, right? But I'm thinking, could a cell have been left deliberately open, you know, for 3 inmates to get in there and do as they please, you know what I mean? Because like the mother is asking, how do you get into a closed cell, locked cell, yes?
Yeah.
You with me? Yeah, so, you know, could something like that have occurred where whoever's responsible, you know, for the security of that child, you know, deliberately left that cell open or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Knowing that, and like she's saying, they you know, they're not saying anything on it, you know, it's like it's being hushed, you know what I mean? In the event that, you know, that it's forgotten. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned enablers, man. I'm looking at it as, like I said, in the IS office. I'm thinking, you mentioned the boys training center, you mentioned the transit home, you mentioned what is the other place where it's like a halfway house.
Yeah.
You know, they overnight or what, they spend a day or something, the night they have to go back.
We have the Uptown Garden Girls Center.
There you go. So, you know, these, the way I look at it, when I say enablers, I'm thinking, and it's my strongest feeling that what you have is, you know, the people who are in charge of these places are themselves predators. That's how I look at it. You know what I mean? So you have people in charge of young children, you know, adults in charge of children, and you hear stories of this still being violated. There's a caller who said that what about the boys? There's so many boys who may have been in the situation. The mother of that child also said, what about all of these other girls that may have been in similar situations, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at it as what you have is those people in charge, you know, whoever is the highest ranking person in charge at whatever department, you know, or whatever, whichever of those particular institutions. What it is you have, let's call it, you've got a homosexual in charge of little boys.
Well, I don't know about that. I just know,
I just
know that we're failing our young people at various levels.
That's the point. That is my point. Why is the failure? Why is nothing being done to address? You know, why is it not being addressed? We have to look at, you know, the situations as you know, as miserable as, you know, as hard as it may be sounding. You know what I mean? You cannot disregard something like this. You know what I mean? You can't disregard the fact that, well, I wouldn't say you can't, the fact, but you can't disregard
possibilities.
It certainly is, man. There's nothing being done to these situations are rampant. You understand where I'm coming from? And nobody speaks about it. And like I said, the mother is saying that it's trying to be hushed deliberately. You understand where I'm coming from? So this is more or less what this, like you said in the start of the program, it's something that has to, it's not a talk show thing, man. It has to be probed. You know what I mean? Why is it people in there looking to investigate? Why don't you have, you know,
well, I strongly believe that the police will have to get involved in this particular matter. It's a criminal matter. It should not be left to the officials at the
and the police,
any other institution. But
the police have their own wars right between them. You know what I mean? They investigate them own selves and so on. You know. So what's the situation at hand? What are we looking at in this place, man?
Right,
you know, could I just make one more point?
Yes,
I mean, like I said, it's predators in our, you know, in the IS offices, and your victims are left helpless. You looking at having, you may want to have a lawyer to represent you, and then when you look at it, that lawyer more or less is looking to, you know, to represent, maybe that lawyer is secretly representing the state and just selling your case away. You understand where I'm coming from? These are the situations that we're looking at. That is why nothing is happening in this place. And people just, you know, just being violated, you know, whoever, you know, their lives being lost and for nothing, you understand, and there's no redress, nothing.
Okay.
You understand where I'm coming from?
All right, sir.
I mean, I'm tired of the talk shows, man.
I appreciate the contribution. Okay, thank you so much for your contribution. Let's take a break. Back in just a moment. When we come back, we'll be hearing from Nadia Jermaine once again. I played that interview early on, but people are sending me messages requesting that we replay it because they missed it. Stay with us. Back in a moment. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You are watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS television. If you care to, we can squeeze in one more call quickly before we hear again from Nadia Jermaine, because people have been calling in and asking me to play that interview all over again because they missed it during the first segment of the broadcast. But if you want to have your say on this particular development, this incident which should not have occurred, you might describe it as unfortunate, but this incident at the Bordelais Correctional Facility, definitely very shameful and very traumatic as well for the 16-year-old as well as her mother. Here's hoping that will serve as a turning point, and the upshot of this will be that once and for all the authorities will realize there's need to put measures in place to deal with issues impacting our people, in particular our young people. Good evening, you're on the air.
Hello, good evening, Tim.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
Yes, I've been following the program, and I am just wondering, what will be the end result of this program? Because these things happen year in, year out, and there just doesn't seem to be any outcome, any positive outcome out of those gruesome things that are happening in the country. Let's look at this whole incident with the gentleman in charge. He said the incident happened on a Monday. The victim is saying it happened on a Sunday. Yeah. So there is a big time gap between that incident. There's so much time for things to go haywire in terms of actually getting somebody to face up to those things. So you really have to wonder what is going on up there. That is a big, when you think about it, Tim, a place that apparently seems to be unmanned for something like that. You hear about wall destruction, you hear all kinds of things, and for a young lady to be gang raped, basically that's what you're hearing, with nobody even being able to at least come in on this to stop it. Almost a whole day elapsed, it would say. I don't know, Tim, this is just a really sad situation, and I hope the relevant authorities will finally do something concrete that at least the citizenry could feel that we are moving in some kind of direction, Tim. Thank
you so much. This thing is so serious and so deserving all of our focus and attention as a nation that I will not be playing the clip that peaked this evening. I don't think that is appropriate for us to do that. Let us hear now from Nadia Jermaine. Once again, I spoke with her earlier on. She's the mother of the 16-year-old female inmate at the Bordelais Correctional Facility. She is claiming that she was raped on Sunday evening. So we go straight to that interview, which I played earlier on. Just in case you missed it, let's hear from her again.
I don't want to mention her name. So I'm like...
You received that call at about what time? The same Sunday evening?
No, I received that call on Monday night about minutes to 8.
And her father told you what?
Something is wrong with her, so I asked him what, because the way he's speaking, boy, don't tell me my child did. So I'm like, tell me what happened to her. So he's telling me Nadia was raped by 3 individuals in her cell. So I'm like, you serious? When you get that kind of information from? He said the probation officer called him and told him that. So I said, okay. I'm going to call the probation officer right now because I need to speak to her to really know what's going on. So I called her. I didn't get her the first time. Then she called me back. And I'm asking her, like, Miss, what's going on with Nadia? She said, well, sorry to tell you that 3 inmates broke into Nadia's cell. So I'm asking her, was Nadia raped? She said to me, no, she didn't say she was. So I'm wondering, but how the father can say Nadia was raped and now you telling me no, Nadia wasn't raped? No, but not as a was. She's like not as a retailer. So I'm like, well, in the first place, how did 3 inmates happen to get into Narelli's cell when Narelli is supposed to be under maximum security? Right?
And what was her response?
She don't know. She herself, she finding it strange too. So I asked her if the inmates had a wrecking ball to break through the walls. Because isn't the facility built in walls? Is it built in plywood? She know it had concrete bricks. So I'm like, but how did prisoners get into a female inmate cell by breaking a wall? That's impossible. That makes no sense. That's all not making no sense at all. Well, I really don't know what to say, but you should go down to Borderley tomorrow at 9 o'clock. The investigating officers are there. They will be having an interview with Nadev. You should sit in. I went to Borderley at 8:30 in the morning. I arrived there at 8:30 in the morning.
That's on Monday morning.
That's a Tuesday morning because she called me Monday night.
Okay, Tuesday morning, yeah.
So that's Tuesday morning. When I arrived there, reception, I'm here to see Nadev. So they telling me, well, I'm not on the victim list. So I tell them, well, today I can't be on the victim list. Because something terrible happened to Nadia. Why should I be on the victim list? I'm her mother. What happened in Borderley? I tell them, but you all know what happened in Borderley. Nadia was assaulted on Sunday night by 3 inmates. They're like, oh, that did not happen. We don't know nothing about that. I tell her, well, anyway, you don't know nothing about that. Let me speak to someone in charge. Because I was told to come in for 9 o'clock to speak to the investigating officers. Okay, they have me waiting. I waited and I got a little frustrated waiting because I am eager. I want to know what's going on. Because somebody called me and said, my child has been raped and I want to know what's going on. So, a little after, he said, oh, Mr. Felix will see you right now. I go to Mr. Felix. I'm speaking to Mr. Felix. Mr. Felix, you have no answers. Oh, Mr. What's that?
What was your response?
My response?
Because you're saying that the officials there on duty could not respond to you.
They could not respond. They, like, everybody's just smiling like, we don't know what to say. We cannot tell you about the situation right about now. There are investigating officers down there investigating and this and that, and everybody's giving it the runaround. The head of the facility will be here in half an hour, and this and blah, blah, blah. Some lady called Miss Bella approached me. She said she wants to speak to me, so I'm telling her to speak to me now. She cannot speak to me right here. We have to go in private. Hours and hours and hours passed, and up to now I cannot see Miss Bella. I cannot see the head of Borderley facility. I was there and I supposed to meet with these people because these people are supposed to tell me what's going on with my child.
So up to now, who have you been able to speak with on this issue?
No one.
And you're saying that no one has also contacted you?
No one. The only people I'm speaking to is the people from probation. And the people from probation is saying that themselves do not have too much information because when they went there, Borderley did not allow them to go in to see the crime scene.
Can you describe the area where your daughter was housed?
I have no idea. I am begging to see that place. Up to now, I cannot see that place.
But she has been on remand from July of this year.
Yes.
Have you been able to see her since?
I am begging to see that place. I cannot see that place.
No, you have never seen your daughter since she has been incarcerated on remand?
Never. Well, according to them, she's not even on remand. She's been detained.
So what was the reason given for you not being able to see her?
I guess it's all bound to the public.
So you don't know where at the Bordelais facility she was?
No, I don't know. The only people that know that has seen that facility is the probation officers.
So between this incident which occurred on a Sunday evening and now, you see, you've not been able to speak with any of the officials, particularly those at the BCF.
What have you been able to do? Because obviously this must have caused you a lot of pain, a lot of anguish. What have you been doing?
I called different people. I spoke to different people on what should I do. I'm speaking to her lawyer because I don't know what to do.
Because initially the Director of Corrections said that your daughter was physically attacked and she was being examined to determine the level of the attack on her, the extent.
She was examined on Monday because she made the report at 7 o'clock in the morning. Because according to her, when the incident occurred, there was no security around, nobody at all. Not one person inside. Not one security guard, not one warden, nobody inside. When she made the report Monday morning, they probably brought her to St. Jude at whatever time. They did not bring her right away.
And you've not been able to speak with her on the phone?
I spoke to my daughter. The day I went there because I demanded to speak to my daughter. Because one officer told me that there's three sides to a story. There's borderline side, there's her side, and there's the truth. So I wanted to know the truth.
So you spoke to her on Tuesday?
So I spoke to her on Tuesday because I really want to know the truth. And the only truth I want to know right now is my daughter's truth. Because everybody's saying cat and mouse game. Everybody wants to bury. Imagine if somebody did not call a probation officer from the cell, nobody would not even know about that. This man would have never even come on television and say that the country has to move, because they would have just found sweep it under the rug. Because they're still trying to sweep it, people still trying to hide. Look now, the child is being kept in the same cell where the fellas attacked her, and it is supposed to be a crime scene. What is she doing sleeping in a crime scene? Now, if somebody from inside did not call probation, trust me, nobody would know about that. That would have been a secret. And then probably when the tried to tell me now, they would have said she's lying.
What was the nature of the conversation with your daughter on Tuesday?
The rape. I would have told, as soon as I entered, she just hold me and fell on me and said, "Mommy, they raped me. They make me feel like a dog. They raped me. Two of them raped me. They made me feel like a dog. I'm feeling so dirty. I'm feeling like a dog." That's what she said to me when I entered, and she started crying.
Before this incident, how was she doing?
She was holding on. She was trying. She was holding on. Because I go to see her every week or twice for a week. So she was hoping.
As far as you know, has she been given any kind of counseling?
Oh, they said she's been given counseling, but when I went to probation, the probation said that's not true. They only called the counselor in today. The child was supposed to have counseling from the day she entered borderline correctional facility.
What do you have to say to the authorities who are listening to you right now?
The authorities are saying, "Lucia, sorry, I'm so ashamed. I am so ashamed of the authorities of St. Lucia. They don't care. They don't care about anybody. It's not their child, so they don't care."
Why do you believe they do not?
From the day the incident happened until today, the places have been, the questions have been asking, nobody cares. And even the child said it, nobody cares. Nobody cares about me, mommy. Nobody cares.
How do you plan to fight this?
That information, I'll keep that to myself for a while.
But before this incident, were there any warning signs? Did you ever expect that your daughter would suffer such a fate?
No. She's supposed to be in a safe place. You all put her there because you're saying you're protecting her. You all didn't even put her in the field. They didn't even put her with the females, because they say they don't want her with the females because it's dangerous for her to be with the females. They will put her in they will detain her in a place by herself. Just to keep her away from the danger of the other prisoners. So probably they should have just left her the other girls and maybe the other girls go to her backside, and then probably it would have been better for her. Instead of having 3 men come and violate your whole space, violate your body and everything. That is so disgusting.
What do you want to happen next?
What I want to happen next? I want justice for my child. I need justice for her. And not only for her, for lots of young girls in St. Lucia, because who knows? Something that's been happening at Borderley for so long and nobody's speaking out. It just happened that probably it happened to her and it ended up coming out, but probably it was happening at Borderley, not now. And people hiding it. Nobody knows. I want justice for her and for whoever it happened before her. A lot of nonsense is to stop in St. Lucia. We need to stop hiding things. We need to stop hiding things in St. Lucia. We need to speak up in St. Lucia. Don't wait for when things happen to us. Because not now. So much crime going on in St. Lucia, not now. You don't have a proper facility to facilitate young children. Not now. She's not the first and she will not be the last. They have other girls at the facility who's been there from 16 the same way. God knows what they went through.
How has this impacted you?
Right now I'm just sad. Sad. Emotionally distressed.
Do you have any other children?
Yes, I have. I have an older daughter. She's 19 and she's 20.
So how are they reacting to this? Because I'm sure they would have been privy to the attack.
Everybody's sad. Everyone is sad. Nobody cannot believe how that happened. And she still has to be in there sleeping in that same cell. That's if she's even sleeping. She's probably wondering where they might come again. I cannot get no information on the holding information on the investigating officers from me. I cannot get to know who's the investigating officers. I just pray to God. God help her, guide her, give her the strength to go through because I know she's taking it rough inside of it. I just pray to God that He gives her the strength and I can give her the help that she needs.
Nadia Jermaine, I spoke with her earlier today and is speaking on the plight of her daughter, 16-year-old daughter, currently at the Borderley Correctional Facility. In July of this year, she was charged with murder. And so many people have been crying out for justice over the last several years, and whether they have received that justice, certainly in most instances, that has never happened. We'll be monitoring this particular development, and as we go along, we'll be providing you with further information, and here's hoping that we will be having some kind of outcome that will be to the satisfaction of this mother as well as the victim, and we all as a society can learn from this, and we also can benefit from this as well. I'll be continuing the discussion on Real FM 91.3 North and 91.5 South. That's on the program Newspin between 12:30 tomorrow afternoon and 2. Our next news major on DBS television tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. My name is Timothy Paulion saying good night and see you next time.